Hi everyone, welcome to Last Book Alive. Today we are reading On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This is the cover. Um, so, happy Saturday. Um, Vuong is a Vietnamese American poet, essayist, novelist, and this is his first novel. He also published a poetry collection called Night Sky with Exit Wounds, and that was critically acclaimed. So this novel, On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous, is a letter from a son to his mother. So it's written in second person. So he's basically talking to his mother. So he refers to her as you, and so basically he's referring, like when we're reading it, he's reading it to us in a way, the letter. The narrator's name, the son's name, is Little Dog, and his mother is Hong, or Rose in English. Why is his name Little Dog? He says that I think it's the same as in India, where like sometimes people are named like really like negative things, so that basically the idea is that if death comes for them, it doesn't take them because they're already so weak and wasted. So I think the same idea is present in Vietnamese culture as well. And so, children are named not such flattering things, so that they will be ignored by, basically it'll save their life. It's a way to protect children. So that's why he's called Little Dog. So this book, which is a letter, we are taken we're taken on a journey of a family and their migration from Vietnam to the US. And specifically, they migrate from Saigon to Hartford, which is a city in Connecticut, which is in the eastern United States, up north. The story basically moves, so it's a layered kind of narrative, so it actually moves between different time periods. One is the Vietnam War. The second is America in the 1990s. His family, Little Dog's family, migrates in 1995. So he talks about their experience as first time coming to America and what that was like. And the third part is the 2000s, the early 2000s, during the war in Iraq, and also there was a epidemic of OxyContin in the eastern United States, where very young kids were getting addicted to the drug that was basically given to them as pain medication. And then they would get addicted to it and then shoot up and basically wasted their life, and many of them died. So these are the three time periods that the story kind of moves back and forth from. So just for a little bit of historical context for you, Vietnam War actually lasted 21 years. I didn't know that. It's amazing. Like, I mean, it's really sad that it lasted 2 decades. I didn't think that it lasted that long, but it started in 1954 and it went on until 1976. And it was fought between, technically it was fought between North and South Vietnam, where the North was communist and the South was basically the Democratic bloc. But basically it became a proxy war between the communist bloc and the United States and its and Western countries. China and Soviet Union and other communist countries backed North Vietnam, and the communists in North Vietnam, and the South Vietnam faction was backed by the US. About 2 million people lost their lives in this war. And Little Dog's grandmother, her name is Lan, she is the character through whom we witness this war, because she is basically the character that has lived through this war and then migrated with the family to the United States. During the war, she marries a soldier, an American soldier. So he also basically becomes Little Dog's adopted grandfather, which is very touching. I'm not going to read too much into it, but it's a very touching thing that something good came out of the war. But yeah, The mid 90s when yeah, so the mid 90s when when they come to America, the main problem is that is highlighted is the language barrier that they face, and how that actually makes it very difficult for them to even do day-to-day things, like for instance even accessing food. Like there's a really sad part in this where the mother wants to make oxtail soup for the family, but she's not able to explain to the shopkeepers, to the butchers, what an oxtail is, you know. So she basically, like, you know, ends up kind of being made fun of or ridiculed. So yeah, and in a way, little dog, because he develops the language, he becomes proficient in English. He becomes kind of like a bridge between his mother and the outside world. And his mother actually, it says in the novel, like, you know, his mother doesn't learn how to read, so he doesn't even know if this letter that he's writing to his mother, whether she will actually ever be able to read it and you know, understand it. And I think what this novel is a tribute to her in many ways, however complicated their relationship has been. So yeah, so little dog in the mid 1990s, when he first comes, he is bullied and he is beaten up, uh, because he also doesn't speak English, right? And yeah, this was actually very personal, because even when I migrated with my family to Nigeria from India, and people would, I knew how to speak English, but I wasn't very confident in speaking it, and I was bullied for it in Nigeria by American kids. So yeah, this was something that I think a lot of people do face in America, or in, every time that there's a migration there. So I think there the language becomes quite a bit of a challenge. Anyway, the 2000s is Little Dog's adolescence, and he meets his first love, whose name is Trevor. And so this book becomes then not just about, you know, an Asian American boy, young man, or an immigrant, but also a narrative about a gay Asian man in the U.S. Who is Vietnamese. So, like, you know, all the different things that come with that. You know, how he talks to his mother about it. You know, his interaction with Trevor, which is also complicated, right? The relationship is complicated. So they both deeply love and desire each other, but there's a sense of shame, or some part of self-rejection, and therefore rejection of Little Dog by Trevor. And then for Little Dog, I feel like there's also a sense of loss. You know, it's almost like he's watching Trevor lose himself even when he is with Trevor. You know, it's almost like he realizes that the moments that he has with Trevor are limited and, you know, temporary. But yeah, their relationship is, you know, it's a very touching and tender kind of thing, but also very, you know, it is an intense novel. It's not, and yeah, so we see like their struggles, and especially him watching Trevor as Trevor gets addicted to OxyContin, and you know, not being able to do much about it, basically. The other relationship that is complicated is the one between Little Dog and his mother, because even his mother, she does beat him quite violently throughout his childhood, and so that is there. But then also their relationship is filled with tenderness and honesty, and also funny moments. So yeah, I feel like these are the two relationships that kind of hold the book together, and they're central to our narrator Little Dog's you know, entire like experience, whatever he's narrated. And the other relationship is the one that he has with his grandmother, which is which I feel like it sometimes saves him. You know, many times it saves him when these two people whom he deeply loves, but who also hurt him so much. The grandmother land becomes a refuge for him, becomes a space of safety. So I thought that this book, you know, it was very beautifully written, and it was very evocative. I think, you know, the fact that he is a poet, I can see that in the way that he writes, because sometimes he just leaves these beautiful sentences. There are beautiful sentences scattered about the book. They don't necessarily have anything to do with the plot. And I would say that it's not even that this book has a specific plot. Like, it's not like A happens and then B happens and then C happens. It's just a letter. And in it, so then he's reminiscing, and then he comes up with this idea of like, oh, this reminds me of this, reminds me of this, and then we have these beautiful sentences, which I have been posting on my stories on Insta. There, and so as I said, this book is intense. So there are bits about animal cruelty which I had to skip over because I couldn't read it. But obviously it is part of the narrative, because it is Hartford is. I have never been there, but I'm assuming that parts of it are rural because he works in a tobacco farm. So there are references to rural life and farm life and things like that, especially when he's with Trevor. And yeah, I think the strongest part, the strongest I think point about this novel, I think it's why it stands out, is because it's a personal history of the Vietnam War. But also I think it's a very private study of one's family and the people that one loves, and seeing them not as perfect but extremely and deeply flawed, but we love them nevertheless. So I think that's what really stood out for me. And so yeah, so I just basically wanted to read some bits of it, just to give you an idea of what I mean when I say that this novel is beautifully written. One second. Yeah. The time while pruning a basket of green beans over the sink, you said out of nowhere, "I'm not a monster. I'm a mother." What do we mean when we say survivor? Maybe a survivor is the last one to come home, the final monarch butterfly that lands on a branch already weighted with ghosts. The morning closed in around us. I put down the book. The heads of the green beans went on snapping. They thunked in the steel sink like fingers. "You're not a monster," I said. But I lied. What I really wanted to say was that a monster is not such a terrible thing. From the Latin root monstrum, a divine messenger of catastrophe, then adapted by the Old French to mean an animal of myriad origins, centaur, griffin, satyr. To be a monster is to be a hybrid signal, a lighthouse, both shelter and warning at once. So yeah, this was just my very short take on Earth. We're Briefly Gorgeous. I would definitely recommend this book. It reads like poetry, and yeah, I think it's a beautiful tribute to one's very complicated love for one's mother, and having an honest conversation with her about her life and seeing her as a human being, rather than just as your mom. I mean, one of the things that I remember, and I don't know what page it's on, but I'll just tell you, is that he asks his mother, what are your happiest memories and what are your saddest? And I choked up, because I was like, wow, like, what if I was to sit with my mother and ask her this? What would be her answer? Yeah. Anyway, so that's it from me. Hope you have a great Saturday and Sunday and the rest of the week. Take care, and yeah, have a good day. Bye.